Most people do not get inbound leads. That's the first thing I want you to know. So I've spoken to so many influencers who do not get any inbound. They've got more than 10,000 followers. So if you want to get inbound, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. I promise you can get them, because I see my clients getting them with less than 1,000 followers. So listen up. Here is how I booked 10 sales calls in 10 days during Black Friday using a offer. So this Black Friday, I taught my clients how to launch an offer. And what we found was that they started getting inbound leads, and even those that didn't manage to sell during the period have got sales since. So this is not just a short-term kind of launching an offer strategy. This is a long-term strategy that can really make you money. And once you've learned how to do this once, then you can just repeat this throughout the year as many times as you want. You could do it every single month if you want. I do. Here's what I did to book those sales calls, and you can implement it straight away. So as you go through this video, I highly recommend that you pause the video after each tip so you can make a note of how you are going to include it in your campaign, in your content, and in your business strategy. Because otherwise you're going to take in these tips but not integrate them into a plan, which isn't going to get you the best results. You have to have a plan. The first thing I did, I got 2 pieces of paper and I created a plan about what I was selling, why I was selling it, how I was going to sell it, a content strategy, the types of things that I was going to say, and I just scribbled down everything that I needed to make a really solid plan, and then I padded it out. So don't overthink this. Don't think that you need to have this really structured plan in place. You just need to get the fundamentals of your offer, adding scarcity and urgency, making sure that your pricing is right, getting down some keywords in terms of like how you want to speak to people and the ideal customers that you want to bring in, as well as some kind of copywriting models, their pain points, your solution, and just get everything down on paper about your sales period that you're about to run. So that's what I did first. I had a plan. I knew what I was about to do. So if you don't have a plan and you're just going to start talking randomly on social media, inconsistently, not selling every day, and you don't have a content plan, or you don't have a networking plan, and you don't have a pitch, and you can't talk about your product and your offer confidently, then this is where you really need to start. And that's what I teach my clients to do first and foremost. So the second thing I did was I really leaned into copywriting. So if you don't know what copywriting is, it's a way of writing that encourages people to sell. So you're literally getting into their heads and saying what they need to hear in order to ask people to do something and convert them and use your call to actions. Copywriting starts with knowing a few copywriting formulas. I'll put a few on the screen. So there's ADA, there's PADS. I had a guest expert come into my group yesterday, Vicky Handley, and she talked to my group about the biggest copywriting mistakes that people make. People were blown away by how useful that is. So if you don't know how to copyright and you want to get inbound leads, then I seriously recommend that you learn this skill first, because you can use it in your captions, in your posts, your carousels. You can use it in pitching, in creating like a speaker's deck, in your sales pages, in your websites, in your articles, in your blog. Everything you do should come from a copywriting perspective, because it is known to increase your sales. Number 3. I reminded myself about what makes me credible. So it's not just the fact that all of my clients get results that makes me credible. It's my work experience, it's my business experience, it's the press that I've been in, it's the awards that I've got. All of my experience and my life experience is what makes me credible. So I made sure that during the sales period of Black Friday, I repeatedly talked about why people would want to work with me and what they're going to get from working with me. Because my clients can literally borrow my confidence and my experience in everything that I know from working over the last 15, 16 years. Oh, as well as the 3 first-class degrees that I got in HR, business, and marketing. Yeah, that's right. I don't even know what degrees I've got anymore. So credibility is a big one. That's what's going to make people trust you and want to buy from you. Number 4. I used multiple sources of traffic. So when those 10 sales calls came in, they were split across 2 different platforms. So I started my business by selling on Instagram, and then I moved over to LinkedIn as well, because in my opinion, every business owner should be on LinkedIn. It's an absolute goldmine and people are ready to invest. Plus, from a content perspective and a strategy perspective, it's way easier than any of the other platforms as well. I used multiple sources of traffic. If I had just used one, I would have only got half the amount of sales calls. And it's really easy to repurpose your content between the 2 platforms. So once you've got used to selling on one platform, I seriously recommend that you add another. Because the more traffic that you have, the more leads you can generate and the more money you can make. Tip number 5 is all about storytelling. So what I have found through my content, particularly on LinkedIn, is when I tell stories, I get really good engagement and really good follower growth. So in the last week alone, I've gained 500 followers on LinkedIn, and I only had 4,000. So that's a really, really good return on the post that I put out. More importantly than this, I use story sequences in my content. So particularly on Instagram, I use stories to sell. And you might have seen this a lot online already, but I literally take people through a process in my stories, which leads them up to a place where they can DM me. So if you're not familiar with story sequences, I haven't got time to go into them right now. However, I'm going to put a simple one just on the screen so that you can see, and you can pause the video and see kind of what's going on in that story sequence and how I get people to basically DM me and chat more about working with me. But just to mention as well that you can use story sequences on LinkedIn through carousels or through videos. So you can follow the same copywriting formulas and just apply it to a post on LinkedIn. Now, the next tip is probably the most important if you're wanting to grow your account, but it's also the most important for selling as well. So one of the biggest things that I have done in the last 6 months is I have got really opinionated. Now, I'm an opinionated person anyway, so it comes quite naturally when I'm in person. I do like to debate, but I like to do it in a really intellectual way, so I'm not kind of cutting people off. However, I've not always been good at doing that through my content. And in the last 6 months, I kind of stopped masking, stopped holding back my viewpoint. And I have seen the most growth on LinkedIn, particularly through being opinionated. And the reason this works is because you're showing people what you stand for and you're calling in the people that agree with you and have the same values system. So I have thrown rocks at people in the coaching industry where I don't agree with the approach that they're taking because I don't believe it gets results. I have thrown rocks at the kind of clients that don't get results. So the ones that want a silver bullet, that think that they can just invest in something and the work will be done for them, which is just simply not the case. And in doing that, I'm repelling the people I don't want to work with, and then I'm calling in the people who will really get results through my program. And what I always say to people is you can become an expert in your field in 2 ways. And I say expert loosely. So you can either become really knowledgeable about your topic, which takes roughly about 10,000 hours to become an expert in a topic, or you can become really opinionated. So that's why you often see people that actually don't have a lot of credibility in terms of what they're saying, but they have a large number of followers because they're really opinionated and share their views anyway. If you're not yet an expert and you're not yet knowledgeable, then you can get by and you can get followers and you can create an audience just by sharing your opinions. What I would say is that please do it with a dose of integrity. So I don't share anything that I don't genuinely believe to be true. And if I find out that that is not true, then I will change my opinion straight away. So I use science and I use research to get my clients results. And I don't believe in people just sharing opinions just for the sake of it. So please try and have some integrity if you use this one. You need to share social proof. Testimonials, I talk about this a lot, and video testimonials go a really long way, but you can also use screenshots. So I share screenshots of my wins channel in Slack. Every Friday, I ask my clients to share what their wins are for the week, financial or otherwise, and then I share them on Instagram to show that my clients are getting results. So I also talk about my 100% success rate because every person that's come through my program has got leads and sales. And if they don't, I would continue working with them as long as they have put in the work that I have advised. And this makes people feel safer when they invest with me, because if they know that 100% of my clients have got results so far, then they know that they're in safe hands. So I would really encourage you to create a bank of all of your testimonials, ask your clients to get on video and say what they loved about working with you and the result that they got, so you can share it across all of the platforms, as well as include it on sales pages and in portfolios if you do outreach. Now, talking of my 100% success rate, if that is intriguing to you and you know that you want to increase the revenue in your business, whether you are just starting out or whether you're already established and looking to scale, then I invite you to book a call with me. There's a link in the comments. And what we do is we talk about your business. I go through the challenges that you are facing, and I will give you some really good business advice that you can implement straight away, as well as tell you how I work with my clients so that we can get your business moving. Now, this tip I don't see a lot of people doing, and this made a huge difference to my Black Friday campaign this year. And what I did was I handled objections before people spoke to me. So I was handling objections throughout my content. And the way that I did this was I wrote down a list of all the reasons that people might be worried or choose not to work with me, such as they don't feel like they've got the time to implement what I teach, they don't feel like they're ready, they don't have the money, whatever their worry was, I injected that into my content. So you would have seen on my story sequences, if you follow me on Instagram, I was saying things like, there's no point in waiting until January to sign up if you know you need to invest in a coach, because if we create your plan now, then you can start getting sales in January rather than getting sales in February or March, because it takes a certain amount of time to actually put a strategy in place. So if you know you're going to do it, then don't wait until January and do the whole new year, new habit, new me thing. Just invest now and let's get your plan sorted. So like I said, I don't see a lot of people doing this, and the reason this works is that by the time they speak to you, they are warm and their objections have been handled, but also it encourages them to book a call. So it convinces them and influences them to actually get on the phone with you in the first place, which I think is one of the reasons that I booked so many sales calls in that period. All right, so next up is inviting people to chat to you. This might seem really, really simple, but when you are selling, you need to invite people to talk to you constantly. So you will feel like you're always saying, please DM me, please chat to me, please send me this word. And you might feel like you're peddling that all the time, which can feel exhausting from your side. However, your audience isn't necessarily seeing that all the time, because obviously your content isn't necessarily shown to everybody. But also they need to hear that message consistently and constantly to consider it. So you need to be front of mind. So one of the best things that you can do is keep inviting people to speak to you. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to use a keyword. So I will tell people to DM me saying the word happy if they're at 0 to 7K months, or the word scale if they're at 7K plus. So I know exactly where their business is when I am qualifying them in the DMs. And the reason keywords work is because often if you ask people to speak to you, they don't know what to say. So if you make the process as easy as possible, they only have to send you a word, then they know that you're going to do the rest of the work and ask them the questions and make the conversation really easy. So make sure that you're always inviting people to speak to you as often as possible when you are selling. And I just want to call out as well that I don't just invite inbound messages. I do a lot of outbound too. So I used to build my business completely on outbound. So I never got inbound for a really, really long time until fairly recently, because it takes a really long time to build up your account and for people to trust you. And actually what I found in this campaign, I got so many inbound messages because my story sequences were dialed in, my content was dialed in, I was constantly selling. I made it easy for people to contact me. The great thing about inbound is it takes the hard work out of things, but when you are building, you must use outbound too, and I still use it. I would never stop doing outbound at any point in my business, because you are missing out on the people that don't take action and that actually won't respond to your content. So one of the easiest ways, but also the most exhausting way as well, is to send messages to all of your followers, all of the people that engage with your content, and start a conversation with them. You can cold pitch to them if you want. However, you will need to send a lot of messages to get a response, and people don't like being cold pitched to. So what I do is I start conversations with people, I get to know them, and I understand whether they are right for my program based on who they are and my business. And I will play the long game. I want them to know that they are in safe hands, that they can trust me, that I'm not going to pitch to them if they're not the right person for me. But I also want to know a bit about their business. Now, this can feel like a really long process. Like I said, it can feel exhausting speaking to that many people and not necessarily making a lot of sales. But over time, what you tend to find is you build a community, and community building is really, really good for engagement. It's really good for follower growth. And the reason I have sold so much on Instagram when I've only got 1,200 followers is purely because I've created a community. So typically when I create good content and post good content, people respond, people know who I am, they know a little bit about my life, I share the behind the scenes. And so when I do speak to them, they're more open to a conversation about whether they would like to join my program or not. So if you're not doing cold outreach, by the way, then I highly recommend you integrate it into your strategy. And if you're not sure how, I've got a video here explaining exactly why it's an easy way to boost your sales.